As thousands of nurses hit the picket line today, Te Whatu Ora Health New Zealand confirmed cost-cutting will continue till 2027. The agency released its annual plan this year, showing a deficit of $722 million in the last financial year. So what does this mean for the country's health services?
Sorry, I just got to say again, remember, just never forget, when we hear about a deficit, right, when we hear about this public agency not sticking within its budget, what we're hearing is the government did not give this place enough money. Because remember, the budget that they set, the amount of money they have is all decided by the government. And so to look at it and going, they're not living within their means, what they're saying is they're not living within the arbitrary amount of money that we placed on them. And remember, in the health system, where is that money going? Hip operations, nurses, care in hospital. So what they're saying is they've spent more than we've allotted them. On what? They're not buying ivory back scratchers. We're short on doctors, we're short on nurses, and we're not getting through enough operations already. So all they're saying, but basically what they're saying is we're not funding them enough. Yes, Chewie.
Maybe it's not in our best interests to have more older people with bad hips walking around because of reasons. They should stay home. They should just sit in a comfy chair and try not to move around too much.
Well,
maybe they need to think of the country.
Well done. Shorter lines at the post office. Yep, that's what we are. National 2026.
Oh, wouldn't that be
Miller
good?
has more details and reaction.
Nurses out en masse calling for help.
That's a pretty big protest for a group of workers. I mean, you know what I'm saying? That's a pretty big protest.
Bosses to listen.
We are fighting for safe staffing in our hospitals. We don't have nurses. How can we properly care for people?
Pay is almost irrelevant at this point. We want our patients to be safe.
Te Whatu Ora says,
I mean, they're in it for themselves. She's literally saying, well, okay, screw our money, but let's at least fund this well enough that our patients are safe. I mean, come on.
it is listening and urges the nurses back to the negotiating table.
Really important that we hear concerns because nurses are the backbone of hospitals and we want to be able to satisfy.
It's funny how they treat the backbone like an asshole though, eh? It's unfortunate.
Boom, zinger.
Their conditions.
While the agency has credited its comprehensive program of cost reduction for reducing its initial forecast $1.76 billion deficit, it still has to fill a $1.1 billion hole in the next financial year.
Ultimately, these cuts are irresponsible and are going to hurt the health system. I think they were reckless from the beginning, and that's due to the fact that the health system wasn't funded adequately.
The government has to be really clear. It has to choose between cost cutting or meeting patient and whānau need.
The health minister says he's made his expectations clear.
Sorry, I'm just kind of watching this thinking, at what point are we going to say $3 billion to landlords and $14 billion of tax cuts? Is that going to come up at any stage? Are we going to talk about that? I'll find a space somewhere to mention that. We're not mentioning it yet, but I'm sure we'll find a space somewhere that these guys could find their fucking $1.1 billion.
I expect them to meet the budget projections that they have put to us. That's my expectations.
The budget projections, which is an arbitrary number that we set. And we've set it too low, so they have to cut.
To do so with clinical safety and good patient outcomes.
We would always look at not compromising clinical care to live within our means.
But there are questions over how, as the health agency's own report shows, demand on its services continues to rise. More than 1.3 million people visited an emergency department in the last year, up 50,000 on the year prior, and wait times have also increased. Primary services that could help divert patients away from hospitals also struggling with the lack of public investment.
There is no doubt that if you invest in primary care and general practice that you will reduce what goes on in hospitals. It's about prevention, it's about making sure that people can be seen quickly and that their health conditions are not left to languish.
Hospital nurses fearful there are grim days ahead.
At the moment we're training student nurses to go and work in Australia.
But as nurses, we come to work every day not knowing if the ward is going to be safe for us to work on.
I am so worried about the future.
Where they'll simply be asked to do even more with even less.
I mean, come on. They're asking for a safe workspace. Do you notice all of these messages? They're not about, well, we're not getting paid. They're asking for a safe workplace for them and a safe space when it comes to healing for their patients. That's what they're asking for. And this government's response is, there's going to be cuts through till 2027. I mean, come on. This could be the end of it, I'll just see.
Corazon Miller.
It is the end of it. There's another part I want to play about this, Chewie, because Mr. Luxon ended up having a sit down with Mikey Sherman, which follows on from this. But before we have that 2-minute story or 2.5-minute story, your initial thoughts.
Yeah, look, the story today about cuts to the health system going on till 2027. My first and honest reaction was, I don't think this country can sustain what this government is doing for another 3 years, let alone till 2027. It's sabotage. We're already seeing the effects. As mentioned in that story, wait times in A&E departments are heading up. You know, we have less staff to cover wards. And I think that key aspect of they're talking about safety. Nurses administer medication that if it's wrong, if it's in the wrong quantity or the wrong drug, will kill people. Tired nurses doing that sort of work or receiving instructions from equally tired doctors will lead to deaths. And that is on Shane Retty's head, and that is on Luxton's head. And we're already seeing it. We're seeing the pointy end right now. Rotorua patient dies in emergency department after a 3-hour wait. Patient who died in the waiting room of Rotorua's hospital emergency department last month had been waiting 3 hours to be seen. Distressed staff say that she should have been seen within an hour, but the department was critically short-staffed.
Fucking hell.
That is like there's no gray in that. That is all very black and white.
So that is, right, and I don't mean this to judge, particular countries in the world, but that is banana state republic. That is third world country outcomes. So under this government, the health system is becoming a third world entity. And they're talking about us like we're first world because, Mr. Luxon, good salesman, so he says.
At this point, the only thing that you could say as a positive was at least it happened inside the building and not in the car park.
Oh,
just 2 weeks earlier, that emergency room staff had written to management flagging their worries over excessive wait times. So it's not like this is like, oh, we couldn't have predicted this. It's being predicted.